Hi, my name is Dr. Caitlin Kite and I'm from the Academic Development team. I'm here to talk to you about constructive alignment. This is something that we use when putting together teaching essentials, and it's something that we hope you'll use when you utilize the information that you have gained from this course. At the heart of constructive alignment is the intended learning outcome, or ILO. Now, ILOs are something that you have already encountered throughout this module. So a couple of slides ago, we'll have told you what the intended learning outcomes were of teaching essentials, and that's good practice. You want to make sure that your students understand what they're working towards. So this will be something like knowledge or skills or a way to think about something. Whatever it is the goal that they're working towards or the destination. And once you know the intended destination, you can figure out how to get there. And the first step in that is thinking about what your learning and teaching activities are going to be. Now, I mentioned both of these things because we know that it's not just about being a sage on a stage anymore. You also can facilitate learning. You can open the door and let students go through. So you can think about having a blend of these activities, and it doesn't really matter as long as they are appropriate to achieving the ILO and, of course, to facilitating learning in a range of different students. Once you've gotten to that point, you can then start to think about the third phase of constructive alignment, and that is being able to evaluate how well this has all worked, or whether it's all worked at all. And you do that through assessment. Now, we often think of assessment as something that just gives a mark so that students know if they failed or not, and although that is a part of assessment, actually it's more useful to think of it as something that students can learn from so that they can see, do they need to keep doing something in order to really properly get the information or the skill. And it's also something that we can use to learn from because we can see, have we chosen activities that help us get to those ILOs? Have those ILOs actually been met? And again, there are a range of different assessment types you can choose from. These are all things that we'll go into more detail on later on in Teaching Essentials. But the idea is basically that you just want to make sure that whatever you select, it's something that is actually testing what those activities managed to do and whether those ILOs were actually achieved. You want to make sure all of these are aligned. And the reason that we call that constructive alignment is because it does ensure that the students are getting a good constructive learning experience. And it's something that also allows us to help construct all of the activities and all of the materials that we need in order to go through that educational process. So it is constructive in multiple different ways. And I've talked about starting off with your ILOs and then thinking about the endpoints, but actually you can start outside and work your way in as well. You can do some backwards design. So for example, with assessments, we often find that accredited modules and programs will be required to have certain types of assessment because the accrediting bodies say so. And if that's the case, then you know that you've got to deliver a certain type of exam or an oral presentation or something along those lines. And you can look at that and say, what does this achieve? What skills will students have having done this? Or what skills will they be demonstrating by doing this? And that allows you then to figure out the ILOs and work backwards. Likewise, you might find out about some sort of innovative educational activity and you want to give that a go with your students because you think it will work well. So you can have that activity and then think, right, if my students did this, what would this be helping them work towards? What would this be allowing them to learn? And you can extrapolate from that what the ILOs are. It doesn't really matter where you start. The key point is that at the end, all of these things are working together to get you to the ultimate point of your students knowing things and understanding things and being better educated. Now, I've talked about all of this kind of horizontally here, so I'm thinking about constructively aligning within, for example, a session or a module. But in fact, we know that there are different units of education, if you like. So students are learning on different levels. So for example, the smallest unit, the thing that most of us are involved in, is the session. But sessions work together to make up a module. And modules will have ILOs that might be separate from the session ILOs. They're probably going to be a lot broader. Likewise, modules are together in a program, and again, a program is going to have even broader ILOs. And all of those things happen within the context of the university, which itself also has ILOs, and we see those listed in the university strategy on the website. You can see the attributes and the skills we want our students to have when they're all done. And this is information that the university is getting from looking out across the landscape, listening to experts, through the pedagogy, through institutions like Advanced HE, looking at competitors. So there are a whole range of sources where the university is looking at these and thinking this is what our ILOs should be. And then that trickles down into the program, module, and session level, where you're also then getting that discipline-specific advice or even field-specific advice. So there is this sense that information is being handed from the top down that we need to consider whenever we're thinking about ILOs. But we're delivering from the bottom up. And so often you're kind of moving in one direction and looking in another direction. And as you're doing this, what you should be doing is trying to balance and make sure that the ILOs and all of these things are supporting each other and that they aren't getting out of alignment. You don't want to be doing something tangential down here that doesn't ultimately feed into the broader university goals. And you will find that these goals up here are a bit more general, so hopefully there's a big umbrella that fits in these things down below. So I would just encourage you that as you think about constructive alignment, you make sure you're doing that across your session, but then how your session fits into the module, the program, and the university ILOs as well. It is important to make sure all these things work together. There's documentation on this so you can see what the ILOs are at each of these levels, and you can also talk with your colleagues and interact with education strategy groups to get more information. So this is just a brief introduction to all of these concepts, and we'll go into more detail on all of them later throughout the rest of Teaching Essentials, but hopefully this will set you off on the right foot.